Hey, my name is Josh Thompson, and you're watching Texas Platinum.
What's going on, guys? Texas Platinum is back this week after a bye. We are here providing a video for you guys. We go up north to Waco to play the Baylor Bears. They're ranked number 16. We're currently unranked, and obviously got a very critical game ahead of us. This will, in many ways, kind of maybe not define the season, but we win, and we got some good momentum on our hands, and hopefully good things happen. But if we lose, we are looking at a 4-4 record, and all hell may break loose. So this will be a big game this week. So we'll be obviously previewing the game, but beforehand, kind of doing a bit of a mid-season review, talking a little bit about Oklahoma State, even though that's kind of old news at this point, being that we just had a bye week. But we'll still touch on it, give it its due diligence and everything like that. But first off, welcome to everyone that is watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe. If you have not subscribed yet, doing so really helps with growing this channel and allows us to provide better content to you guys down the road. So please share and all those good things with friends and those that watch the Texas Longhorns. So with that, coming off a bye week, not going to lie, it felt good to have a bit of a break. I'm sure the team felt the same. Not to brag or anything, but I was able to go up north to watch Notre Dame USC in that stadium. That was a pretty wonderful experience, and I highly recommend anyone that if you ever get the opportunity to go there, or really any other like a iconic college venue that isn't DKR. I mean, obviously go to DKR, see the Longhorns, support your team, but just go watch another college game somewhere else and go as just an unbiased fan, because it really, I don't know. I found it to be such an enjoyable, relaxing experience compared to what I'm typically used to. So bye week was good for me. Myers, let me hand it over to you. I guess real quick, if you want, touch on the bye week. How did it feel for you? And then from there, let's hop into kind of a mid-season / Oklahoma State review.
The bye week kind of came at a good time for the team, but it came at a bad time as fans because you always hate losing before a bye week. So you just have to sit with that loss for 2 weeks, and it's really annoying and like depressing. But I think it was good timing for us because, just the way that we've kind of flamed out over the last 2 weeks against really good ranked teams that we had leads on. I think it was good for us to kind of reset. And I think Sark definitely has been talking about how he's been working on the team's psyche and just harping on consistency and just being able to execute in the face of adversity. That's something that we haven't really done the last 3 weeks. So it comes at a good time. 4-3 is where we're sitting at. And before the season, this is kind of what we were expecting, like 9-3. I think I said 9-3. So I guess it's maybe a little bit worse than I was expecting. But it is year one. So you kind of understand that we're having some growing pains here and there. But what makes it really disappointing is just how good we looked at times. I mean, I think about it's been like 6 quarters ago when we were up on OU, like by 24, whatever points it was in the Cotton Bowl, up 4-1, about to, take control of the Big 12 race. We were like on cloud 9. Then all of a sudden, in typical, recent Texas fashion, we've just come, falling on our faces. So that's kind of been like a major buzzkill. And then the same thing happened the following week against Oklahoma State. So it's definitely just kind of like all the momentum that we had and like recruiting and on the field has kind of just been dried up. And we're just kind of starting from square one again this week. But Baylor's a really challenging opponent. And it's not going to be easy to win there because they got a good team. We're going to talk about them in a little bit. They have a really good team.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'd say they're a very comparable team to Oklahoma State. In fact, Oklahoma State beat them, but that was them at home, or Oklahoma State at home rather. But yeah, I expect another similar type challenge there where you're dealing with a very physical team, another great defense, and another great rushing attack that Texas has definitely struggled with post Oklahoma State, and now Baylor, and then next week Iowa State. So We're going to be facing a lot of the same tests over and over and over again, which I guess has its positives, being that hopefully we can adjust and learn from past mistakes. But it also could definitely be a negative to where it's like, okay, we clearly struggle against this and we got to face it again and again and again. So, yeah, that definitely is going to be something to look out for, and will kind of define our season going forward, honestly, because if we can't at least, I mean, we got to win really these next two games. I mean, if we drop one, I guess we can survive it, but we definitely can't lose the next two. That'd be a 4-game losing streak. That would be awful. That would be so bad for our program and everything going forward. But let's rewind the clock back a little bit, and touch, I guess, a little bit on the Oklahoma State game. Like we said, it's coming past. It's a little bit old news, but definitely some valid talking points to take away from the game. Myers, if you had to give just a couple bullet points about this game or stuff that is of note that you think is still relevant 2 weeks thereafter, what would some of those things be?
Well, we clearly don't have great talent in the trenches on both sides, and that just it shows every time we play a good team in the second half. It seems like we just get shoved around. Arkansas, TCU is kind of shoving us around in the second half. OU just dominated us in the second half, and Oklahoma State did it too. They were running at will at us down the stretch, but I don't think the loss was really on our defense. I think it was more on our offense and Casey not playing well at all. But to be honest, like in the second half, the O-line was so dysfunctional. You can't even really be mad at him half the time. He made his bad plays. He definitely did make some mistakes, but if you're just always under that constant pressure, it's going to be hard to play a clean game of football the entire day. So it was really, kind of a tale of two halves. That pick six really just destroyed us. That 14-point swing. We're about to go up 24-3 and pretty much put the game on ice because Oklahoma State's not a team that's going to score 25 unanswered. I mean, I guess they did come back, but that would have put it really hard in a hard place to reach for them. And we could have kind of just controlled the game from there, it seemed like. So that flipped the whole game. And then, that kind of adversity, we didn't respond well to at all. But, I mean, there were some silver linings. I mean, Jalen Ford looked good at linebacker. I don't know why he's not playing over Luke Brockermeyer. He's definitely got that speed that you want in a Big 12 linebacker. And a lot of the runs down the stretch, like Brockermeyer he was at least schemed to be in the right spot, and they just couldn't get to the holes fast enough. And then Jalen Warren would just take him like 30, 40 yards or 10, 15, just gashing us. And so, yeah, I think that's also a part of the reason our defense breaks down in the second half is because I guess we get tired and we don't have the speed from like our linebackers, especially without DeMarvion. We were just kind of playing with our hands behind our back there. But I thought that the D-line did okay. They were able to get pressure at times, but it just wasn't enough. But yeah, it was just a disappointing loss. And we got the ball to Keelan on the first drive, like the first couple of plays, like Keelan got the ball on the second or third play. And I was like, yes, let's go. Like Sark's finally doing it. He's making an effort to feed Keelan. And then he gained like 25 yards. We went and scored. And then he didn't touch the ball again the rest of the game. So I'm hoping that Sark on the bye week is really focused on actually getting Keelan the ball, at least 5 touches. I said in the video, the roundtable on Nino's corner, that if we give Keelan more than 5 touches on Saturday, just 5, I think we'll win the game. So he's that dynamic. He'll break one at least. You don't see that type of talent very often, especially like Baylor. They don't see that type of speed. So, I mean, we need to definitely involve him more. Bijan's still great. Our receivers, they take 1 step forward, 2 steps back, it seems like. Worthy, he had a really bad drop. I only got like 1 or 2 receptions. So, it's just frustrating, man. It's just we can't put it all together, it seems like. It's just we get one thing going and the other thing fails, and then just vice versa. It goes back and forth, and we just can't play complementary football yet. But it is only game 7 of Sark, so you have to keep that in mind. Like it's going to take a little bit of a process. I mean, Kirby Smart went like 7-5 in year 1 at Georgia. Saban went like 7-6 at Bama in year 1 and lost to Louisiana Monroe. Bob Stoops went 7-5 his first year at OU. So, I mean, there's countless examples. I mean, it's being good in year 1 is more of the rare it's a more rare occurrence than not being good, so it takes time to build a program, and hopefully we start building right now with Baylor and then get some momentum going on the recruiting trail, and hopefully get back into the Big 12 hunt and go from there.
Yeah, all excellent points and really kind of thoughts that I had. I guess other points that I wanted to bring up was just Whittington being absent, which we really didn't discuss. I think going into the Oklahoma State game, at least on this show, we didn't discuss it. I'm sure other people on other shows, and it was definitely a valid point. But I think we kind of overlooked how important he is as the number 2 guy, because Worthy, despite his unbelievable talent and how great that he's going to become, he is still a freshman. And whenever you don't have another guy to account for in the passing attack and you can single in on the guy, he is still young and learning and is capable of being shut down when you don't, especially against these great defenses. Oklahoma State has a very good secondary. Baylor has a great secondary too, coming up. So that's another thing to look out for again when it comes to our wide receivers. But yeah, without Whittington, it was very obvious that our offense, Casey in particular, didn't really have a security blanket to throw to, because our other receivers, Josh Moore, Kevontre Dixon, Marcus Washington, all of those guys are like they have the potential to have a very high ceiling, but none of them have really put it all together. Washington serves as an excellent blocker. Everyone talks about that. Moore has his, games where he explodes, and then he has his games where he just goes away. Dixon really hasn't put it together at all this season, and it still may be another couple years until he really breaks out at this point, at least, unless something big happens with him. And then our tight ends, I feel like we could be using them and they'd probably be excellent security blankets. A Jared Wiley, hell, even a Cade Brewer are both very good pass catchers. But the problem is our tackle play is so freaking horrible that they don't get any looks because they have to, their backup, their security for Casey. So they're too busy having to block all the time rather than actually go downfield and get receptions. So that is something that really stood out to me in the Oklahoma State game, and it's going to be something that I look out for the rest of the season, at least until Whittington comes back, which timetables for that are they're kind of hit and miss, because I think I heard something about Whittington like trying to get back early, and me personally, I'm like, don't do that, because you've been so injury prone your entire career. The last thing I want you to do is rush back. But at the same time, we do kind of need him because we don't have that clear number 2 guy outside of him. So yeah, that is definitely something that stood out to me, as well as, just how important Overshown is for our team. It's been clear from day one that he, is kind of the captain of the defense and probably our biggest star on the defensive side of the ball. Talent-wise, definitely. I mean, you could say that Alfred Collins probably has more raw talent than Overshown, but for now, at least, Overshown is our dude. And when he left, because of the concussion protocol against Oklahoma State, it was so obvious that our defense just didn't have its guy there. Because up to that point, until he left, we were doing actually very well. Probably the best that we've done in numerous games, probably since like Tech or Rice. Honestly, it started out really well for us, and then once he left, all hell kind of seemed to slowly break loose. It wasn't a immediate thing, but it definitely was a gradual, fading out per se. So great that he's going to be back for this game, but definitely something that stood out to me very clearly is that our linebacker depth is pretty weak. So that needs to be stiffened up and fixed somehow, obviously with Brockermeyer, and maybe try to get Ford in there some more with Brockermeyer's recent struggles. But yeah, really, that's such a critical position group, especially to Coach K's defensive scheme. That just needs to be on par. And with Overshown not there, it isn't. So again, fortunately he's back, but definitely something to be aware of, that if something happens to him, knock on wood, things might get very bad. And then last point that I wanted to point out, I guess not the last, but yeah, Keelan is definitely someone that we need to get more involved. I believe that Sark acknowledged that in a press conference. So that's good. I just want to see all three of our running backs get involved. Obviously Bijan's Bijan, and we're going to get him as involved as we can. But I want to see Broshawn more. We haven't seen him since, I feel like, all month, really. Probably since Texas Tech. And even then, maybe not all that much, but he's still a very good back, and I think he can get a lot more carries or looks or something like that. We ran that Wildcat package with him near the beginning of the season, and I'd love to see it again in some of those short down situations, because I think this offense can use a jolt of energy and a mix up every now and again, especially with a running attack struggling in so many instances. I believe that if you incorporate a few more of those athletes, especially with Whittington out, it may help. Some difference may be good. So I'd love to see Roshan and Keelan and Bijan, really all three of them on the field at the same time. I think maybe this bye week, Sark got creative and came up with some new plays to not run like a triple option. That would be a little ridiculous, but at the same time, that'd be interesting. But I'd love to see them get more involved collectively, both in the run game and the pass game. Again, with Whittington out, I think that those three players are some of your most talented players on the offensive side of the ball, and they've all shown the ability to be able to catch. So I'd love to see them get involved in like the screen game, and if not the screen game, just intermediate passes. I really think that can help, again, with Whittington out. And this will be my last point. Special teams has been great. Maybe not great, but it's been very solid. And that's one thing that I feel comfortable hanging our hat on. Dicker really has done a great job this season. He started out shaky with his kicking, but really in the past few games, past month, he's really solidified himself as a great kicker and an excellent punter. I think that he should probably be up for the Ray Guy Award. He's just been really, really good and getting himself some draft stock. So good for Dicker for rebounding. And then obviously our punt and receiving teams, kick receiving teams have both been pretty solid, getting good favorable returns as well as getting a few punt blocks. So Jeff Banks is definitely doing his job and doing pretty good at it. And at least we can hang our hat on that at least special teams isn't falling apart as well. So those are just both some Oklahoma State and overall thoughts kind of mixed in. Myers, how about any final points for you before we move on to Baylor? Anything that we're missing here?
It feels like we're cursed, doesn't it?
It does. I've said that for years.
I don't know why our offensive line is so bad. And it's kind of just becoming a self-fulfilling prophecy where
it's never been good, Yeah. At least in my memory. When was our offensive line good? Like the Vince Young days? I think even with Colt, it wasn't spectacular.
No, it was good with Colt, but like since then, it's been really bad. Okay, and it's like at a breaking point right now. Like it's like the worst I've ever seen. Yeah. And it's frustrating because like we get in with all these recruits like Devin Campbell. We were making up ground on Kelvin Banks, like the guys you need to flip the script. But then our play is so bad that like they're not going to come here, and it's just like a cycle repetitively. Evan Stewart, Archer in the building, like we're leading, about to close on these guys, and then we just lay an egg again, like for the 12th year in a row, and we're not going to. We might get back in there and close it out, but it's just we had a chance to like slam the door on those, and we just, we didn't because we just choked again. So it's just a cycle, man. We need to find a way to break out of this cycle and just, I don't know, land a Georgia type class where we just have so much talent where it's just like we're going to be good no matter what. Because they say we have a lot of talent, Texas, and we do. But like, if you actually look at the roster, I think I talked about this in the last video, but the 2018 class was actually pretty good. Like, that was a top 3 class legitimately. There wasn't a lot of super like gems in that class. I mean, there were some hits, but most of that class is gone anyways. Now they're mostly in the league or graduated or transferred out. 2019 should be the core of our roster right now, the class 2019. And that was probably the most cursed class of all time. I mean, if you go back and look at it, like we have like 3 players from that class that are still like here contributing. And it's like Roshan, who like plays a couple snaps a game on offense at best. And Tavondre Sweat, who was a 3-star. And then, he was a 4-star, but a low 4-star. And then a couple others, Whittington, but Whittington can't seem to stay healthy, which sucks. So that class is just kind of a wash. Like, that class basically never happened, it seems like, because all the heavy hitters in that class just aren't here anymore or didn't pan out or medically retired. So our upperclassmen are kind of flawed. We don't have any great talent in our upperclassmen, it seems like. And then 2020, class 2020 was actually really good. I like our 2020 class with Bijan, Alfred Collins. It was a smaller class, but they're sophomores right now. So when they're upperclassmen, I think they can be a good core of our team. And then our last class, I mean, they're all freshmen. They're not going to be great contributors right now. And let's be honest, it wasn't a great class. It was a transition class, barely top 20, a lot of 3-stars in that class. So we're not loaded with talent like we used to be, where we can just roll out of bed and say, we're Texas. And we still have that mentality, it seems like, where we just go and play these teams that we think we should beat. And we just get pushed around a little bit. So I'm hoping that our administration and all of our people behind the scenes really, I mean, we're moving to the SEC, so we have to break the cycle of this, whatever this is. And if it's dropping bags or whatever, we need to make it happen and get better on the field rapidly as well, because I don't want to be playing like this when we enter the SEC with these linemen. It'll just be an embarrassment. We're already hated by everybody. We're trolled by everybody in the national media, and they'll just have a field day with us if we're rolling out these type of lines in the SEC in year 1. So it's just frustrating that we're still in this position 12 years later. But on the bright side, we have a really good staff. I mean, that's like undeniable. This is the best staff we've had since Mac Brown. I mean, these are all like Power 5 high-level guys, Bama guys, Notre Dame, LSU, all these guys, Washington even, which is bigger than anything that Herman had with this Houston staff. So we got to just we got to keep the staff together, hopefully, just let them do their process. Hopefully we'll see a lot of improvements from the bye week. That's kind of a sign of a good coach, if you can roll out a good performance after a bye week with a good game plan. So this is Sark's first bye week at Texas. So hopefully he's got the boys ready. I'm sure we'll look great in the first quarter. But I want to see how we react if we get, punched in the mouth, which we definitely will against a well-coached Baylor team that we'll get into here in a second.
Yeah, agreed. The SEC points are fantastic, because that definitely has been a talking point again with a lot of Texas fans as of late. Just if you look back at the Arkansas game and look at what Arkansas is now, they're really just an average SEC team. And I mean, I got to be honest, a lot of people after that game were like, "Oh, Arkansas is just like really, really good." But I'm not going to lie, when I didn't say it because I didn't want to, because they were, kind of surging, but I didn't want to say it out loud. But myself and a few friends were almost like, I bet Arkansas is just an average team. Because I mean, their talent didn't look like it was exploding off the field. They were dominating us, but it didn't look like, a Georgia or an Alabama or anything even close to that. They just looked like they had a very good game against us, which is what has turned out to be the truth. And whenever we go to the SEC, that's going to be a weekly type of challenge. I mean, even the lower tier teams have, very good line play on both the offensive and defensive side of the ball. So honestly, it's funny because, Myers, you especially were kind of speaking it into existence that this would be our last year in the Big 12 and that Texas was going to do a big buyout in order to make that happen. I don't think Texas does that now. I think we wait at least another year. So probably 2023, maybe, that we joined the SEC, just out of fear of, us getting absolute. I mean, how many games would we have secured right now if we were playing an SEC schedule? Like three, maybe.
It depends. I mean, if we swap scheduled with A&M, like we kind of be in the same spot because they've played Bama and Arkansas, and they've played also the bottom feeders. So it just depends. Like the SEC is a monster, obviously, but a lot of the times these teams end up with pretty manageable schedules in the SEC because there is a lot of junk on the bottom. But still, the points stand. Like if we start playing the middle to upper tier teams in the SEC right now, we're gonna get pushed around pretty bad.
Yeah, and it all has to do with the line play again. Like, I mean, talent, skill position players, I feel fine with. Maybe not. Actually, that might be a little bit generous now that I say that now. But it's the line player that concerns me, and that showed up very clearly against Arkansas, and will continue to show up anytime we play a respectable opponent. So just some food for thought right there. That we need to get way better, and that happens immediately through the transfer portal, and then with time, it happens with recruiting and development. So, a ways to go, long ways to the top. So, but we've been saying that for over a decade now, and we got to start saying over a decade, by the way, because it has been over a decade. We always say, "Oh, it's been a decade." It's been longer than a decade, guys. It's been like 13, 14 years at this point. We got a ways to go still. But again, like you said, on a bright side, the staff is something special. It's better than anything we've had since Mac. And I think there's bright things ahead of us. But at the same time, they need to go into overdrive here and save this season, because you can recruit at Texas with an average season. But in order to get the players that you need at a slightly above average season. And that's kind of what we're looking at right now, where these next two games, if we lose both of them, it's definitely going to be below average season. If we win one of the two, it might be an average season, which still may not get our top players. But if we win the next two, then there's still a chance, especially with players like Arch, who everything I read is he is so high on Texas, which is so freaking frustrating, because we could be 6-1 right now, and this would be a freaking drop in the bucket. Like he'd probably, I'm sure he wouldn't have committed on the spot or anything like that. But if we beat Oklahoma and Oklahoma State, I guarantee you, he's basically committed to Texas at this point. And he really wants to come here. And I've heard things about, like, apparently he doesn't care that much about record this season, but he's not going to a 7-5 Texas. I'm sorry. You can't do that. Maybe you can, but God, that's a stretch in my opinion. So, and if he doesn't come, neither do a lot of these other players. But it's complicated, but yeah. Myers, any final thoughts before we move on to Baylor?
I'm ready to chop it up and talk some Baylor. Let's get some positivity going. Let's get the Kool-Aid going so we can beat Baylor.
All right. Well, cool. Let's transition over to that then. Texas travels, excuse me, up to Baylor this weekend for yet another 11 a.m. kickoff. Again, it's like we're living in a perpetual Groundhog Day at this point. We've gotten so used to 11 a.m. kickoffs. I don't even know what other kickoffs exist. Both teams are coming off of bye weeks, so there really isn't much of an advantage for either team in terms of rest. Both teams have not had the opportunity to rest. Both teams have had the ability to study up on extra film. So this will definitely be kind of an evenly matched battle on that front. I mean, obviously Baylor has the home field advantage, which will be big. But in terms of rest and study of film and whatnot, no team really has the upper hand Baylor is a 2.5 point favorite. So as they probably should be, got the better record there at home and are higher ranked. So I think that that's very fair to rank them as such. I'd maybe even do more than 2.5 points personally. But people still know that Texas has the ability to really go off and have an elite offensive attack. It's just a matter of if we can execute that. Excuse me, guys. So yeah, Myers, let me toss it over to you. Kind of give your initial thoughts about the Baylor game.
This is our third ranked game in a row. It'll probably be fourth next week when we play at Iowa State. I assume they'll be ranked too. So the Big 12 is kind of murderer's row right now. I don't care what all the haters say. The Big 12 is not an easy conference. It's very deep, and everybody wants to beat Texas. So these are Baylor Bears. I'm going to say this, and it's going to sound very cliche, like I'm just saying general coach speak or whatever. They're a very disciplined, well-coached team. I was listening to Dave Aranda's press conference earlier today, and he is frightening, to say the least. He's like, you can tell he's super smart. He's almost, he seems like a mad scientist type. Really nice guy. I feel like he's going to get poached by a big program very soon. He seems like he's definitely
LSU.
Maybe LSU. Yes. Someone's going to take him because he seems like a gem and he's got it rolling in Waco. But they're actually a super disciplined team. I think I heard on Longhorn Blitz that they played against BYU last week or 2 weeks ago, and they had 0 penalties in that game. 0. Could you imagine if we ever did that? We would never do that. That's insane. And then another crazy stat they also talked about was how Baylor has started one drive or had an opponent start one drive this season in their N+ territory. Like, that's insanity. That means they're not turning the ball over. They're flipping the field. They're playing good defense, keeping good field position, and they're not. I mean, Jerry Bohannon, he's 11 touchdowns, 1 interception. So he's definitely not gonna. He's not the greatest quarterback, but he's not going to turn it over like a Spencer Sanders as much. Defensively, though, it's the strength of their team. I mean, Dave Aranda is their head coach, a defensive guru. They got talent all over that defense. It seems like Matt Rule really left them a good roster, and they're taking advantage of it. I mean, right now they have a Thorpe finalist with Jalen Peasley, who's kind of one of the best DBs in the Big 12, it seems like. I mean, obviously Terrell Bernard's still there. He's just like a monster. And he tore us up last year, so he'd probably, get to us again this year. Dylan Doyle is still there. He's the Iowa transfer. He's kind of like, he's like the high IQ guy, I guess is what they said. Kind of like the coach on the field. He also plays offense too. I think he goes in and like blocks on like goal line situations and stuff. So he's a good player for them. And then on the edge, they have Cole Maxwell is kind of breaking out for them the last couple of weeks. Casey Thompson said that he's their best player on the line. So that's going to be a tough one, man. If they have a good edge rusher, Christian Jones and Kerstetter are going to have a very difficult time with that. So whenever you think about Texas and like our kind of matchup that'd be beneficial to us, I would say this is not a great matchup for us, just because they're super disciplined, super well coached, and they have really good defense, really good D line and edge rushers and linebackers. So it's kind of going to be a dangerous game for us, to say the least. But on the bright side, they are susceptible to giving up big plays through the air. So Xavier Worthy, we need Josh Moore to definitely have an OU type game again. He can't disappear he always disappears, and it's not his fault all the time. It's our O-line or quarterback, but we need Josh Moore to show up this game, and Worthy needs to definitely have one of his good games, and we need to take the top off that defense to, keep them disciplined so we can run Bijan, because the identity of their team is to stop the run. I mean, Aranda said it today in his press conference, so we definitely need to get that pass going early and often, and our O-line has to hold up for that to happen. So definitely the matchup to watch is our offense versus their defense. They have the dynamic duo on their offense with that running back with Abram Smith and Treston Ebner, who's been there forever, it seems like, and also Tyquan Thornton, the speedster on the outside. He's a guy that can definitely take the top off our defense. And we've given up the deep ball in the past, so that's kind of concerning. But yeah, overall, this is a game that's going to be very tricky for Texas to win. But I mean, we can definitely win this if we play a good game. Is what it all comes down to. So I want to see us play a disciplined game and execute and not fizzle out in the second half.
Yeah, it's a big if, because we haven't been able to put together, a full game really in a while, really all month. I mean, I guess you could say it against TCU, but even then, that was kind of coming down to the wire at the end of the game. Yeah, all excellent points. Baylor is a very good team. They're a very solid team all around. I love how you talked about how disciplined they were, because that seems to be a very apt description of who this team is and what they are. Very much kind of like it's funny. I mean, I guess a lot of these players are Matt Rule guys, but that culture seems to have carried over. I mean, you got that one rough year with COVID, but that definitely wasn't all their fault. That was COVID, and the team had COVID like a million times and had a million games canceled and new staff. And it was just an awful year for them. But this year it's starting to show that not only is their staff very good and disciplined, but their players still seem to exhibit that culture. So if Texas doesn't bring their A game, they're gonna get beat, hands down. I don't care if it's Baylor. They still, much like the Oklahoma State game, if they don't bring it, Baylor's gonna find a way to win. So yeah, just kind of key points to the game, at least that I see right now, is I mean, Stark and his staff really have to bring it on this game, especially with second half and adjustments and whatnot. Everyone has been talking about how great his opening first quarters are, how great his opening script is, how we manage to always go down the field and score, which is great. But come the second half, or really even the second quarter, that's when things start getting figured out and Texas starts getting exposed and beat on the offensive and defensive lines, and everything kind of crumbles from there. So it's very pivotal and critical that Sark and his staff do as good as they can off of this bye week, given their extra amount of time to study film, to be able to make adjustments as needed and really prepare for Baylor to be able to counterattack, because Aranda and his staff are very good at adjusting. Probably some of the best out there, actually, from everything that I've read. Another key point, I mean, obviously the line play is always going to be a key point in a game. But going back to a point I made earlier, who's going to be Casey's security blanket in this game? Like you said, Josh Moore needs to step it up. And if not him, somebody needs to, because that the secondary is going to be covering Xavier Worthy, and we do need Worthy to, having a good game without question. But somebody else needs to be that second option. Otherwise, this is going to become a reoccurring trend, and we're just going to be totally figured out on the offensive side of the ball when all the people have to account for is our two targets, coupled with a weak offensive line. So that is another critical thing. You got to find at least somebody. If it's not Josh Moore, it's got to be someone else. Very curious to see how they incorporate Keelan, because again, Sark acknowledged that he's going to try to get him in more. We'll see if that actually happens. I'd love to, again, see him incorporated in whatever way you can. Jet sweeps, maybe even shift him out wide, shift Bijan out wide, get them involved in the passing game with Whittington out. Something needs to happen. And run stopping, both for Baylor and for Texas, are going to be critical. Baylor's got a very good run defense. Our run defense historically under Herman was very solid, but this season under Sark has been very questionable, and that needs to change, because with their running back tandem in Smith and Tristan Ebnar, they definitely can run the ball all over us. I think they're number one in the conference, actually, in rushing yards per game or something like that. So they got a very respectable ground game and attack that we definitely got to honor and stop, which we have significantly struggled to do, especially especially against Oklahoma and Oklahoma State, we've definitely taken a slide and kind of fallen back in terms of run defense, but that needs to change coming out of this bye week and going forward, because Iowa State is probably they are another great rushing attack that we need to be ready for again on the road. So last point I want to make is Bijan Robinson. Can he have an impressive second half? Because he hasn't been able to, being that our offensive line has been so horrible that there's really not much that he can do. But if he can, I think that automatically translates to a win. If he can find a way to be productive in the second half, that may not be running the ball. That may be pass catching. We saw him run some great routes, catch some great balls against Louisiana in the opening game of the season. And I think we can do that again. And honestly, I've been waiting for it since that moment. So some way, Sark, like I said, with my opening, point and key to the game, Sark needs to be creative in getting his best players the ball. And it may have to be in unconventional ways, being that our offensive line isn't going to get fixed really for the rest of the season. It is what it is at this point. We're more than halfway through. You can make all the adjustments and rotations that you want. We got a weak O-line, and that's what it is at this point. So how can you mask that deficiency? If you can do it and do it adequately, I think it translates to wins, because I do believe that really the rest of our schedule is all winnable games. It's going to be challenging, but winnable nonetheless. So Sark just really needs to bring it with his coaching, his schemes, and play calling and all that good stuff. So kind of my thoughts. Let's wrap it up, I guess, with final thoughts, Myers, before we go into predictions. What else are you thinking?
I have three things I want to say. What is this, our fourth 11 a.m. game, or maybe fifth 11 a.m. in a row, which is just, it's absurd, honestly, because it's not right, because we're recruiting against guys that get these awesome night games with great atmospheres, and we have one night game this season against Rice. Like, that's just, I don't know why it's ending up like this. It's not like that we're so bad that they're going to put us. I mean, they have Kansas giving Kansas night games and stuff. So it doesn't make any sense how we've had one night game. And if we do get a second this year, it'll be for Kansas. So Kansas and Rice. That's pretty sad, honestly. So that's just something I was thinking about. It sucks, because I think A&M is going to get like their fifth night game or something at home. And if they get Auburn at home at night. So it's just, we need to definitely have CDC or somebody address that, because it's disadvantage. It doesn't help us at all on recruiting, home field advantage. On so many levels, it hurts us having 11 a.m. games week after week after week. And I know it's up to the TV networks, but you got to get in their ear somehow. So I wanted to address that. And then also Casey Thompson in this game, he needs to definitely run the ball more. I mean, he didn't run at all against Oklahoma State, it seemed like. And when the O-line's as bad as it is, and nothing seems to work, you have to improvise with your feet and make things happen to keep the chains moving. He was so good about that earlier in the season. He was always moving the chains, always knew the down and distance. And he's kind of gotten away from that. He really wants to be seems like a pocket quarterback and do his reads or whatever, or, make the throws downfield. And he needs to just will the ball past the chains and just keep the offense moving. That's what he needs to do, so we can win some football games and keep the defense off the field, because we cannot play complementary football. It's either one side's going 3 and out, or we're scoring on the first play on offense and the defense has no rest, or vice versa. So we need to find a way to extend drives and go and score and stay on schedule with I think Casey Thompson running the ball, pulling it on reads, bootlegs, stuff like that will really help us just keep drives alive and keep the defense off the field. Defensively, kind of speaking to that, they seem really gassed in the second half of games. And I talked about this on the roundtable. A lot of it's because, the offense is going 3 and out. I mean, we had like 5 straight 3 and outs down the stretch against Oklahoma State, had 1 yard in the fourth quarter. But another thing is, we are subbing like absolute maniacs. We are like doing mass subs every play, literally every play. Like, you'll see Vernon Broughton, the whole platoon coming in, like sprinting their butts off, barely getting their hands in the dirt before the snap. And then we're playing from behind. And then we finally get a guy tackled after he gained 6 yards rushing. Then we're sprinting him off. They look like they're dying. Then we're throwing in Adam Morris, Schooler, all these other guys. Like, how do they have a cohesive, like, defensive, like, philosophy and like game plan out there if they're just running back and forth and like, obviously the mental aspect of everything, you want to have one cohesive group that's, gelling together and, comfortable playing with each other and can trust each other. But when you have players coming in and out, in and out, in and out, like, it's never going to gel the way you want it to. And then, not to mention, just you're sprinting players in the middle of games for like no reason, honestly, which just doesn't help with the conditioning either. So I want to definitely see us cut down on that and really just go with our guys. I mean, Jalen Ford needs to be in there. Alfred Collins. I think Jaron Thompson and Adam Moore need to be at safety and just roll with those guys. So you can just have some consistency, some continuity, some trust back there, and they're not being asked to just sprint back and forth with, so much on their plate, so much in their mind. So just simplify it for them through less subs, I think would be really effective. So yeah, those are the three things I wanted to add on before predictions.
Excellent points. I definitely have noticed the subbing, but I didn't think of it as being like a point as to potential struggles, but that makes all the sense in the world. It's very much kind of what like Tom Herman did, but on the offensive side of the ball with the receivers, never letting guys get in rhythm. And like you said, the sprinting on and off the field, I'm sure doesn't help either with resting your players. It seems like you're making them do more work by doing that. So kind of a funny thing. Coach K, yeah, he definitely has, I would say, kind of got, I mean, it's only his first year, so he's not really on the hot seat, but his honeymoon has definitely ended here in Austin, and people are really kind of questioning a lot of the stuff that he's doing. So I'd love to see him turn it around and kind of reverse that narrative, because that's not a good narrative to immediately in your first season already be kind of questioned for some of the decisions that you're making on a regular basis, really. So yeah, I guess let's go ahead and go into predictions. Myers, would you like to lead it off, or would you like me to lead it off? How do you want to do this?
How about you take it first?
Okay, sure. Let's do it. So I'm not gonna lie. This was a difficult prediction. I mean, the score I feel very confident in. So I'll give you the score first. 38-34, kind of a mid-30s type game. I think that the defenses will do their justice and due diligence to keep the both teams under 40. But I don't expect a low-scoring affair, kind of quite like an Oklahoma State game. So kind of a mid-30s game is what I feel confident in if I had to predict. In terms of who's winning, I will go with Texas, but that is only because so much is on the line with this game, and the fact that they're coming off of two disappointing losses. And I back-to-back heartbreaking losses, and then getting embarrassed at home, being basic. I mean, they weren't shut out. I mean, they kind of were in the second half, but it felt like a shutout with, some of the biggest recruits in the nation there. I mean, the amount of humiliation that they've been going through is really kind of ridiculous. And coming off of a bye week where they've been able to rest up and hopefully make some, valuable adjustments, I think going into Waco, I don't feel extremely confident in it, but I will say that I can see them going in and getting the win against, a very good team, and get their momentum going, because honestly, they have to win this, maybe not have to, but like, if they don't win this game, they will have to win out to have any sort of respectability going forward. And even then, that's questionable. So this is a must-win game for them. Really, I think one of the biggest Sarkisian's career at Texas at this point, because win and you're okay. You've rebounded against a favorable opponent, but losing 3 in a row is never a good thing, but especially in the fashion that we have, and given the recruiting implications and everything that's come with it, and just how big of a decline it's been, they just can't afford to have it happen. Baylor, on the other hand, they can stand to lose a game. They're 6-1. not that means that they're going to take the foot off the gas with Texas. They're going to bring as much as they can. They want to beat Texas in McLean Stadium every year. So, but I'll give Texas the edge in this game with that score that I felt comfortable with, 38-34 Texas. I think that in order for us to win the game, again, I think Bijan needs to have at least a decent second half. That's been one blatant stain, on his resume in order to get to New York, is you got to at least show up in the second half. And again, it's not his fault. So I guess that really means that our offensive line needs to put together a full game. And I don't feel confident that they will, but coming off of a bye, hopefully they've made the adjustments and adjusted techniques and stuff to be able to at least get a little bit better. So in order to put them over the edge to be somewhat decent in order to do so. So that's my thoughts.
I like it. You're so right. This is such a must-win game, because if you lose this, you drop to 4-4. And let's be honest, if we're 4-4, then we go into Ames the following week, and they're surging per usual in late season with Matt Campbell. There's a real chance that we'll go 4-5, which is Charlie Strong territory. And I'm not saying we're a Charlie Strong team. I mean, we're losing to ranked teams in very frustrating close losses. Charlie would have got blown out, but the optics of it will look really bad, and it'll really affect recruiting, like it already is, and it'll only get worse if we drop the next game or the next two games. So Texas really needs to win this game. I think it's a bad matchup for us, unfortunately. I was saying earlier, I mean, we're playing a really disciplined team that's has a really good front seven, which, I mean, Aranda is going to drop all the blitzes in the world to just make our offensive line just their heads spin. And you know how it looks when our O-line is trying to handle blitzes and stunts and edge rushers. It's rarely pretty. So that's not going to be good for us. So we need Casey to definitely have one of his better games. Hopefully he's healed up a lot, because clearly he was messed up against Oklahoma State. And also forgot to mention the refs kind of screwed us in Oklahoma State with that roughing the passer call phantom on us against Oklahoma State, and not when Casey got drilled into the ground by Malcolm Rodriguez. But anyways, hopefully Casey is healthy and plays his best game of the season, because there's going to be chances downfield if we give him enough time to take the top off on this defense. They gave up like 5 plays over 50 yards against BYU downfield, so those are going to be there. Where are these going to get open on some of these, and we got to hit them. Defensively, Baylor is they have not the most dynamic offense, but their offense can definitely grind us down if they want to. So because they have 2 good running backs, so our defense definitely needs to get off the field and not do this bend and break stuff, because it doesn't merge well with our type of offense where we're either scoring really fast or going 3 and out. So we need to get those early stops on defense, and I think we will. I think we'll play a good game, a clean game, but I just think that Baylor's probably going to win this game. Just us leaving the Big 12, playing there, it's going to be fired up. I mean, Josh Thompson had that quote. I don't know, that Chip Brown quote. He was asked, where does Baylor, McLean Stadium rank in the hierarchy of tough places to play? And he said 3 out of 10. Or I don't know the quote. No one knows what the quote, but I heard it and it sounded like he said 3 out of 10, which honestly is true. Baylor's not a place that you're supposed to be frightened to play at 11 a.m., but they're a good team and they have a decent fan base. So it won't be easy. I mean, anytime you're on the road, it's never as easy as going out in DKR. So I think Baylor wins this game 31-28. That's the same score I had on the round table. And I really, really pray that I'm wrong, because if we win this, we're all right. We're 5-3 and we're back in the Big 12 race. You have the momentum back, and then the team can start believing again. If we lose this, then you start worrying about the team just checking out. And then Sark starts saying, we're going to play to get these seniors to a bowl game all over again. And it's just going to be like, ugh, So Baylor's going to win, I think, but I really, really hope that I'm wrong.
Yeah. In regards to the Josh Thompson quote, I looked into, like, he sent out a tweet and he's like, don't mix up with what I said. And I think like a subtweet or like a reply tweet like hinted at that what he meant to say was number 3 out of 10. So like number 3 on the list, with number 1 in his opinion being Iowa State. So I think what he meant to say, like, top 3. At least that's what he's saying now. Maybe he's just going back being like, I don't want to, create a scene or anything like that, but it's too late. I mean, Baylor's going to use that. even if it was misconstrued, Baylor's going to use that as fuel. And even if he didn't say that quote, that the student section and Baylor at large is going to be up and ready to play Texas like they always do. So, yeah, just funny thing. But yeah, I guess any final thoughts, Myers? Otherwise, we wrap up the show and hope that
I just want to apologize if I came off as negative doom and gloom. It's hard to be positive,
It is
12 years of this. I want to win the Big 12 title and beat OU. It's frustrating.
Yeah. Heard. All right, guys. Well, let us know in the comments what you thought about this video, as well as I guess what your predictions are. Maybe you're more optimistic than us. Maybe you're not. We'd love to hear from you guys. But until next week, hopefully Texas comes back with a win from Waco before they head on the road again to Ames. Should be an interesting couple weeks here, and really kind of the biggest in the Sarkisian era. So definitely be on the lookout. Thank you guys for watching. Y'all take care.